Well, good evening. It is May 13th. That'd be Journal 47, uh, T plus 41, right? T plus 41. That means less than 2 months, theoretically, uh, before we can go home. Which leads me to actually the topic of this particular blog post. I woke up this morning and I was a little edgy. Uh, we go to clinic twice a week, as you probably already know. Um, there's a pretty extensive panel of blood tests plus some extra blood tests for a clinical trial I'm involved in that has to do with Jakafi, the only drug FDA approved for symptoms of primary myelofibrosis. However, they're looking at other uses for the drug because it's proven so effective. Um, and that's the trial I'm on. Not even sure I'm supposed to tell you about the trial or tell you any more than that. But going back to when I was first diagnosed, I started going to my original hematologist, oncologist, every 4 weeks, it's every 28 days, 13 times a year. And we got to the point, certainly from the middle, 2.5 years into this, where I started to get that same kind of edgy feeling before going in, because we would have blood work done every time I went to see Dr. Ashuri, and to measure how far along we'd come, and how my body was functioning, and that was about the time we started to see some subtle changes that became not so subtle over time. And I started to realize that as my hemoglobin dropped, the implications of that, you wind up cold all the time. At least I did. You wind up tired, fatigue. And there are other symptoms that go along with that as well that are not particularly pleasant. Now that I've had the transplant, we're not seeing the symptoms, but I get equally as edgy, ramped up, nervous, anxiety filled when we go for labs now, because you just don't know what they're going to tell you. I mean, you know what your body's telling you. You know that you're getting tired. You know that you're fatigued to the point where doing anything is a chore. It's work. But you don't know what else those numbers are going to tell you, because it's more than just the normal CBC. It's more than just hemoglobin and red blood count and white blood count and platelets and stuff like that. There's all kinds of other blood chemistry that they're looking at because of the transplant, trying to figure out if there's any kind of activity in graft versus host, because that can manifest itself in dozens of different ways. As a matter of fact, right now they think that there might be a connection between the GI tract problems I've been having and GVH. So you start to get both leery and weary, I guess, of what those numbers are going to tell you. The good news is that for the most part, most of the numbers come through almost instantly. Most of those numbers you get within half an hour to 40 minutes. And that gives you plenty of time to go over them with the doctor and see what they mean, where you are, in this journey. So a couple of last Monday I wound up with blood. I wound up with platelets. I wound up with a Neupogen shot. Neupogen promotes white blood cell production, which is critically important when you have no immune system, as I've said before. Unfortunately, this week I wound up getting a second Neupogen shot, I say unfortunately in the respect that it would be lovely if my body started producing enough white blood cells, but that will happen eventually. It's just not happening as quickly as I would like. I've tried talking to my body. My body is not listening. It's going to do what it wants to do when it wants to do it. But all of these things have implications and ramifications, and they affect the way you feel. They affect the way you function to a large degree. And I think they're worthy of concern. I don't think that the concern is unfounded, especially if you're curious and you want to know what's going on. I mean, one of the most critical decisions you're ever going to make in life is finding a doctor that is essentially incredibly curious, a doctor that wants to know why something's going on in your body, because that could save your life. Frankly, that could go ahead and get you into treatment. As my doctor got me into treatment really early, so there's a running record of the progression of the disease. Realistically, I'm kind of thinking that the way I'm starting to feel now and looking at the numbers, it's likely I'll probably need platelets on Thursday. May need whole blood also, but we don't know yet. It just depends. But that causes you to be very introspective about your body and what it's doing and how it's doing it. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Whatever we're going through here is complicated by Leslie's back problems. We had an appointment. People want to know what we do all day. What we do all day is either we're preparing to go to the doctor or we're going to the clinic or the doctor or a doctor. Leslie's back went out. We finally got an appointment with an orthopedist that was recommended by our doctor at the City of Hope, and who seems to be excellent, by the way. And unfortunately, her healing is not going as quickly as we'd like it to. And he recommended that either, wait the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months until it heals by itself, or expedite that healing process by going to see a spinal specialist in his practice, and then ultimately get an epidural. And I know there are pros and cons on epidurals, and I expect that some of you will probably share those with us. But realistically, if it does work, it's having had 2 or 3 of them in the course of a lifetime. It just may be what she needs to jumpstart that healing process, and at least relieve some of the pain that she experiences when she's standing or walking. So, and what that does is it just fills your calendar with more appointments. So you go from my appointments, which, we had an appointment for labs at 9:30 this morning and didn't leave City of Hope until 11:30, I think it was, maybe close to 12 o'clock. And so we have an appointment for a consult with that doctor. We have an appointment for an MRI. We'll have another appointment, I'm sure, for the epidural. But you do what you got to do, right? That's the secret of all of this, in my opinion. And you just do what you have to do, and you force yourself, in some instances, to make everything that you're involved in, give it a positive spin, and open a lemonade factory when you're dealing with lots of lemons. And I think that's the lesson that I've come out of with all of this. That and doing it together. You can get by. You can get through with anything if you're doing it with someone that cares about you, somebody that you care about. um, someone who loves you, somebody you love, um, you can get through most anything. So things to ponder, right? Uh, until the next time we get together, stay well, take care. Bye-bye.